Vern Akins made an immediate impact to the Pittsburgh State University track and field program upon his arrival to campus in 1939. Today, nearly 75 years later, his sprinting marks still stand among the best all time for the Gorillas.
Vern Akins was one of the best athletes in Pittsburgh State track and field history. Doc Weed's teams of the 1930s and 40s were among the best at any level in the country. Vern ran times in the 200 meters and the 400 meters back in the 1930s that were world class at the time, among the best in this country and even some of the best times in the world at that time. He could be very competitive even today, some 80 years later. Truly amazing. It's something that the athletes of today certainly have appreciation for because they look at those all-time lists. All of our kids on the team want to get on that all-time list, and when they see guys from the 30s, it really gives you a sense of appreciation of how good Vern was in that day and how good Doc Weed's teams were in that day.
Akins earned Central Intercollegiate Conference victories in the 440-yard dash in 3 consecutive seasons, from 1939 to 1941. The Pittsburgh native also won the league crown in the 220-yard dash in 1939 and again in 1941. Joining a roster dotted with individual talents, Akins helped Garfield Weed's Gorillas capture conference championships all 3 seasons. Jewett, who has coached his alma mater for more than a quarter century, marvels at what Akins and the men from his era accomplished in their time.
Even though, unfortunately, I could not, nor could any of my contemporaries here in Pittsburgh State track and field, get to know Vern Akins personally, I really feel like we share something with Vern and with those other men of his era and Doc Weed, and that is this tradition that we enjoy. Whenever we go to practice, I'll be walking around that track and I'll imagine what it might have been like back in the 1930s. Of course, it would have been a cinder track and not the all-weather track. But I sometimes find myself daydreaming because it was so competitive back then in Doc Weed's era, what it was like and what those men were like. And I'm sorry that we couldn't know him. But again, I think we share a great tradition with Vern and with the men of his era. And I feel very fortunate, and so do our student athletes of today, that we can share that.
In 1939, Akins set the school record in the 220-yard dash with a converted time of 21.14 seconds. He also ran the second fastest time in school history in the 440-yard dash that year with a converted time of 47.84 seconds. Today, both of his sprint marks still rank 5th all-time after all these years, cementing Akins squarely in the rich tradition of the sport on campus.
That's a tradition that Vern, with his individual conference victories in his day and with his team conference victories that he helped with, that's a tradition that is strong that we enjoy today. We truly do owe Vern and Doc Weed, for that matter, a lot in terms of our foundation that we have now. Any success that we have now or will have in the future is dependent greatly upon that fantastic foundation of success that Vern established, in the early days of track and field at Pittsburgh State.
In all, Akins claimed 8 CIC titles, including 3 straight wins as a member of the Gorillas' elite mile relay team. History has and will continue to remember Vern Akins as one of the truly great sprinters to ever wear the Pitt State uniform. Today, we posthumously welcome this record-setting Gorilla into the Pitt State Athletics Hall of Fame.
It is my pleasure and my honor to welcome Vern Akins into the Pittsburgh State University Athletics Hall of Fame.
The family of Vern Akins could not be in attendance to accept on his behalf today, but please give a big round of applause to our newest member of the PSU Athletics Hall of Fame, Vern Akins.